We actually have a semi-competent looking pendulum list for you guys. Gotta love when you can just make all them starving venom dragons. And then we have basically synchro good stuff dot toolbox for you guys. I'll be like the 33.8% of you guys have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can get to 102,000. We're trucking along, actually. I think this is going to be a new record on the channel for new amazing highs. So the first list we're going to be looking at here is Pendulum. Now, one thing that the OCG does have that we don't is they just get to make as many Supreme King Starving Venomy Dragons as they want to. The fact that this card is an accessible option for their side of the game is absolutely crazy to me that they just haven't done all the OTK stuff with this. And they also have Beyond the Pendulum still, and of course Electromite, but that's a story for another day. You don't worry about that. So this is basically an interesting take on what you can do with a more rounded, I think, pendulum toolbox. So we have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, standard hand trap stuff. We have one copy of Astrograph Sorcerer, triple copies of the Black Fang Magician, one copy of Chronograph Sorcerer, one copy of the Double Iris Magician, one copy of Effect Veiler, actually very interesting option. If we were playing Selene, I'd understand this, but alright. We have one Harmonizing Magician, one Luster Pendulum, triple copies of Max C, triple copies of Oath Dragon. We have only two copies of Rune Eyes, or Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. I think this is fine. You don't need to go too crazy on this. We have one copy of Performapal Celestial Magician, one copy of the Odd Eyes Synchron, triple copies of Blow Up Search for the Good Cards, triple copies of Skullcrabat Joker, triple copies of Purple Poison Guy, one copy of Stargazer. Hey, good news for the TCG. We actually get to replay this card now that our friend is back. We have one Darkworm, one Gate Zero, one Time Gazer, triple copies of Wisdom Eye, triple copies of Duelist Alliance, one copy of Star Pendulum Graph, and one Time Pendulum Graph. I think the more interesting thing with this list is we've opted to not play the discard searcher for the double pendulum scale. While I can understand like some implications and things as to why you might want to play that, I think it's very interesting to see that they've opted not to do that. We also have one Electromite, one Hulky Fibrax, one Beyond the Pendulum, one Baguski, the one number 38, one Abyss Dweller, the one TD Wonder Magician, one Supreme King Clearwing, one Shooting Riser Dragon, one Adignister Prominence, one Borreload Savage, one Baron de Fleur, and of course the triple copies of Mr. Contact Dragon. Then we have one Pankratops, two copies of Droll and Lockbird, one Ghost Bell, one Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill, two copies of Called by the Grave, two copies of Cosmic Cyclone, one copy of Lightning Storm, two Evenly Matched, one Impure Order, one Imperm, and one copy of Red Reboot here. Wrapping up, I would say this is what a modernized pendulum toolbox actually looks like in the OCG. You have so many like different pulling options and things that you can find success with playing this deck there. It's actually kind of nuts, you know? We just need really one Electromite and you're basically good to go for this deck. Next up here is the Brave Worm Toolbox, as we're going to call it here. Shout out to Fairy Tale Snow here for being a special summon extender that you can actually access through this deck here, through our good friend Shooting Riser Dragon here. Now remember, this deck is able to function because Boral and Dragon exist. Remember, it's 3+ effect monsters to make this behemoth. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Neither player can target this thing with monster effects, and this card can attack all of your opponent's monsters once each. And then quick effect, you target one effect monster on the field and a rocket monster in your graveyard, negate the effects of that monster on the field, and you get to special summon that rocket monster for free. Alright? And your opponent cannot respond or activate cards in response to that effect activation for that. On a Link 5, by the way. The card's nuts. So we have one copy of Absolutor Dragon. We have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, one Collapse Serpent, one copy of the Destrudo, one Exploder Rocket, one Fairy Tale Snow, one Magna Rocket, triple copies of Maxi, and then of course, for our beautiful dragon strategy, we have triple copies of Red Rose Dragon, one copy of Rocket Recharger, two copies of Rocket Tracer, two copies of the Rocks Rose Dragon, we have one Wandering Griffin Rider, two Aquamancer, two Wyvern Buster, the one Basil Rose Shoot, one copy of Boot Sector Launch, two copies of Called by the Grave, triple copies of Chaos Space, one Crossout Designator, one Draco back, the one Dragon Ravine, the one Faithful Adventure, one Foolish Barrel, triple copies of Quick Launch, and 2 copies of Rite of Aramesir. Down here in the extra deck, we have triple copies of Striker Dragon, 1 Unicron, 1 Heavenly Spheres, 1 Pisty, 1 Rom, 1 copy of Delidris, 1 Hulk, 1 copy of Borland Dragon, 1 Axis Machine, 1 Shooting Riser, 1 Chaos Ruler, 1 Borrowed Savage, and 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. Side deck here we have 1 Droll Knockbird, triple Effect Veiler, 1 Nibiru, 1 Arby's Featherduster, triple copies of Lightning Storm, 2 evenly matched, triple copies of Infinite Permanence, and 1 copy of Red Rebuto here, wrapping up more of a Rocket-esque toolbox deck. I actually like this a lot. Next up here was another rendition of Punk. Now, I don't know if you guys kind of recently saw in the TCG here, but we started to see some lists messing around with the inclusion of the Punk stuff in the deck to kind of get this deck a little bit more off of the ground in terms of things. I mean, you don't really have that many crazy bricks, but I mean, considering the fact that E-Telly's at 3 here, your extension options are what I would deem a little bit better for this deck. So we have triple copies of Ash, Blossom, and Joy Spring. Of course, we're playing 2 Seer. That's actually interesting. I believe, don't the TCG builds only play 1 of this? We have 1 Effect Veiler, 1 Farfa, 1 copy of Ghost Ogre, 2 copies of Graph, triple copies of Maxi. We have triple copies of Noah Punk Foxy Toon, 2 copies of Xiamen. Then we have 1 copy of Skarm, 1 copy, 2 copies, 3 copies of Ancient Cloak, 1 copy of Ragged Gloves, triple copies of Silent Boots, 1 copy of Torn Scales. Then we have 1 Tour Guide, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 2 copies of Emergency Teleport, 1 Foolish Barrel, 1 Rhoda, 1 Imperm, triple Fogblade, and 1 copy of Phantom Knight Wings here, wrapping up the main deck. Down here in the extra deck, we have 1 Underworld Goddess, 1 copy of Rusty Tin Can, 1 IP, 1 Cherubini, 2 copies of Breaksword, 1 Raider's Knight, 1 F-Zero with 1 Big Utopic Future, 1 Levier, 1 Downer Magician, 1 Zeus, the 1 Dante, the 1 Beatrice, and 1 copy of the Ark Rebellion Dragon here. Wrapping up, as I would say, a little bit more of a punished version of this deck, because with this card at 1 in the OCG, I mean, effectively the deck still does things, but it just kind of stinks that these were the limitations that this deck got hit with. Just kidding. I hope we see some hits on this deck here in the TCG, because this deck is very scary. And the next list we have for you guys here is another toolbox with that rose stuff in it, but this time it's the Sword Soul Brave side of things. So you get to see the same engine being used by 2 decks, ladies and gentlemen, though this one takes more advantage of Auroradon and, Tomahawk. So we have 1 copy of Protoss, Mad Lads. We have triple copies of Ash Blossom, 1 Chi-Wen, 1 Effect Veiler, 1 Illegal Knight. Actually, the fact that Illegal Knight is seeing play is actually very interesting. The thing with this, though, is it is a level 7 for this deck, which is pretty freaking good. Free Baron fodder. We have 1 Jet Synchron, 2 Maxis, 2 Lions, triple copies of Red Rose Dragon, 1 copy of Rox Rose, 1 copy of Tai, 1 Long Yun, the 1 Ana, 1 Ashuna, triple copies of Vishuda, 2 copies of the Griffin Rider, 2 copies of Aquamancer. There's the 1 Basil Rose Shoot, 2 copies of Called by the Grave, 1 copy of Crossout Designator, 1 Draco Back, 1 Journey, 1 Foolish Barrel, 2 copies of Pot of Prosperity, 2 copies of Rite of Aramesir, 1 Sword Soul Emergence, 1 Imperm, 1 Nine Pillars, and 1 Vanity's Emptiness. Down here in the extract, we have 1 Almirage, 1 Monk, 2 copies of Auroradon, 1 Hulk, 1 Barricade Borg Blocker, the 1 Galaxy Tomahawk, 1 Yazi, 1 Qingying, 1 Chizao, 1 copy of the big Qing Long Yun. You'll be seeing this card in about a couple of days. 1 Denglong, 1 Chao Fang, 1 copy of Boxia, and 1 Baron de Fleur. Then we have 1 Droll, 1 Ghost Bell, 1 Maxi, 2 Nibiru, 1 Dark Hole, 1 Harvey's Featherduster, 2 Lightning Storm, 1 Prescription, 1 Regeki, 1 Triple Tactics, 2 copies of Imperm, and 1 copy of Red Rebuto here, wrapping up this chunk of OCG deck profiles for you guys. What do you guys think about this chunk of interesting decks? Like I said, seeing that their format is just in a little bit different of a place than ours isn't really all that surprising, but I think the crazy powerhouses that are there are just massive. So guys, leave a comment about what you guys think. Be sure you guys smash the like button, subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.